What is up, everybody? We welcome you to SportsShack, episode 49. One more episode closer to episode 50. I'm Brandon Talley, along with Dennis Toohey. Now, it's been a very chaotic week in sports, especially these past couple of days. Last night was a chaotic night as for itself. Would you agree, Dennis?
Yeah, definitely was. NBA playoffs in full effect, NHL playoffs in full effect, and then of course you also have the NFL draft. So while it wasn't a complete and total sports equinox, of course MLB also going on, it kind of felt like it because there's a little bit of news everywhere. So yeah, fun week.
Mm, a very fun week. What was I gonna say? Um, Mina was definitely very exciting. What was I gonna say? I know the draft was pretty interesting last night. The Knicks, they blew another game. Everyone's thinking that everyone thought they had it in the bag. It's especially our good buddy that I was talking about before before we started the live stream. I said our good buddy in the gym. I don't want to throw out names. Sometimes I do, but I don't. Um, he's a huge Knicks fan, and he was telling me he said, "Oh, Knicks in four." He thought they were going to sweep it, but the Hawks the other night, it was Monday night at the Garden. They CJ McCollum, he's proven otherwise.
Yeah, I said going into this, like a lot of Knicks fans I know from work and whatnot were all very, I don't know if I'd say arrogant, but certainly more than just a little confident that they were going to beat the Hawks. And I think what they're learning is that the Hawks came to play, Brandon. The Hawks came to play. I think one thing I will say going into this matchup, I would have given the advantage to the Hawks in coaching. Certainly, I think they have some good players. While they're not as top heavy as the Knicks, they are a team that they have like kind of, if we're just talking about like a video game, sometimes enough 85 overalls are enough to beat a team with more 90 overalls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That while they don't have the top tier talent, they have enough middle tier talent that it does kind of balance out. And
Well,
it
you
was
did
just
kind
a
of
pretty
you kind
good.
of did freeze a bit.
Oh, okay.
Your face is
Where did
frozen.
where'd you lose me?
It's pretty funny where your face is. Okay, all right, we see you now.
Uh,
Keep going.
okay. Were you able to hear me at all, or
Yes, it's just your face
all
was
right? So it
completely
might it
frozen.
might just be while I'm jumping to different websites. But yeah, so I just think
Like it's frozen now.
okay, but you can hear me.
Yes.
All right, so we'll move past it. I think like this is going to be a tough series. I think a lot of national media people predicted this one to be a 6 or 7 game series, and I think it showed in this last game here. They got 15 points off the bench from Miles McBride. The Knicks did, and it still wasn't enough, which sucks. Mikal Bridges, 0 points in 21 minutes, 0 for 3 from the field. So it's not like he's getting a lot of shots here. 0 for 2 from three, but I want to see a little more involvement there. Meanwhile, Jalen Johnson, CJ McCollum both had 20 points. Johnson had 24, CJ had 23. And then off the bench, Jonathan Kaminga, who is kind of this reclamation project. The Warriors gave up on him. 21 points off the bench, 9 for 14 from the field, 4 rebounds. I mean, he looked good. Gabe Vincent, while offensively didn't do a lot, defensively he did. Only 5 points, but a plus minus at the end of the game of plus 12. So, really, so like I said, man, sometimes it's not, the top tier starting five lineup that you have. It's the other guys you kind of forget about that make the difference. And I think the Knicks were looking for Mikal Bridges to be that difference for them, and he just couldn't do it. Again, I want to see him getting more shots and a little more from Carl Anthony Towns too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just Jalen Brunson. Yeah, I feel like he can only do so much. I know he's made some good contested shots and clutch shots in moments when they count. But at the end of the day, it's a team effort. Everybody's got to show up. Like you said, Mikal Bridges can't be the only. Like would you say? You said he's not as in that competitive edge. Like he's not the one to go to. Pretty sure that's what he just told me. Um, yeah, at the end, I feel like people underestimate the Hawks team, and even though they don't got Trae Young, they're still showing out. They're proving out to be a pretty good team. Because like you said, Mikal Bridges, I'm sorry, I just want to allude to what you said before that he's not one to go in the clutch moments. Mikal Bridges. Okay, I ask that again, Vinny.
I don't know, because when he was on the Suns, he was fine. I don't know what's happened since. I don't get it, because I mean, I'm a big Suns fan. Our listeners know. I don't understand what's happened. Why he's regressed so much since leaving. I don't get it. He was such an important factor for us in the 2021 finals. And that's why, like, when we traded for Kevin Durant, there was a lot of people that didn't like the trade, me included.
I was gonna say you one of them.
Yeah, because I was like, well, we have this really good young core that we could build around. Why would we give up on it this early? And it turned out that was kind of, hindsight being 2020, might have just been kind of like a neutral move. But at the time, I was like, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, like, I don't want to trade these guys. And for whatever reason, he's just regressed offensively. Again, I'm dunking on him, but he only got 3 shots in 21 minutes. This is something that the Knicks have struggled with all playoffs long, all season long. Ball movement. I don't like their lack of ball movement, in my opinion. 19 assists as a team. Actually, for both teams, had 19 assists. But just in the past, throughout this year, like, I don't know, man. I feel like that was always kind of a point of contention, even among the fan base. And actually, I said I want to see more from Karl-Anthony Towns. He did have 21 points in this game. Josh Hart would really killed him. Josh Hart 1 for 9 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, 2 points. Really shot them out of it. Now, defensively, Josh Hart is good enough to make up for it. +3 and plus minus. Although Mikal Bridges was minus 26, and he's actually regarded as being a very good defender. So I honestly don't know what happened. I worked late last night, so I did not watch the full game. And I kind of don't know. How did you let this slip away from you? New York even outscored them in the fourth quarter, 28-21. Strange game. I understand it's the first home game for Atlanta in this playoffs, but still, I don't get it. I don't get. And what I said about ball movement, that's a big reason why they got rid of Trae Young. Was the shooting was gone. He was kind of shooting them out of games, and they just traded him. I think people kind of forget, like, this Hawks team has been exceptionally better without, exponentially better rather, without Trae Young on it in every single facet, especially defensively. So I don't know, man. I think the Knicks might have. I know definitely the fans took this team too lightly. I don't know if the players have, but they're gonna have their work cut out for them now. They trailed the series 2-1 in a best of 7. Kind of sucks. The Knicks had an opportunity to sweep the Madison Square Garden games, and they couldn't do it. And now they're going to have to steal a game on the road here in Atlanta, which is not exactly a walk in the park to play in. So we'll see how that goes. Other games last night.
We'll see how it goes. We'll dive back into basketball. I do definitely want to talk about the NFL draft because I feel like that was a big vocal point of the sports world. I don't know what's going on with your end. Maybe I don't know.
It's one of those. I think when I jump to a different tab, I think it's just going to happen.
Maybe Google Chrome.
It's just. I'm just going to freeze when I jump to a different tab. There's nothing I can do.
You could share the screen too if you want to. Like you can share the screen on here. You can test out the features another night.
Too much.
Yeah. But yeah. So what do you want to ask me about the draft? Because that was a big night.
So I'm just going to rely on you to hear me, right? Now, why don't we
hear you loud? We hear you loud and clear. I mean, it's funny. I think it's funny.
So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about this this draft here? We'll start off. Fernando Mendoza goes first overall to the Raiders.
Correct.
How do you feel about that? I think this is kind of a foregone conclusion heading into the draft. But uh, do you feel one way or the other about it, or
Oh no, it was a slam dunk from the beginning. This was a slam dunk even way before like New Year's Eve of 23 or 24 or 25. Yeah, my apologies. This was a slam dunk of a draft pick no matter what. Like, especially after the national championship game he had with his signature touchdown run. And he's just a great, not just a great quarterback, but he's a great guy. Definitely someone you want on your team, representing your team. And he's just humble. I love that the fact, obviously he's a devout Catholic. That's great. I love the fact that he stayed in his home in Miami. He wanted to be surrounded by his family, but not only because of that, but because his mom, is hard for her to travel. So he didn't want to make it hard on her to do that. He decided to stay home just for the comfort, not just obviously stay with the family, but for the comfort of her. So I just thought that that's to me just red, green flags all over the place. And I just think, I love the story. He went to Cal, and he then obviously transferred to Indiana, and that's where it took off. So he's worked very hard for this Fernando Mendoza. He deserves every second of glory that's coming his way, and it sucks that he couldn't be a Jet. I think he would have done great in New York too, but at the end of the day, the Raiders proved to be the worst team in the league last year, especially um, after the failed experiment, Pete Carroll. But now they got a new life. I think they got a good future. They signed a lot of free agents, and Clint Kubiak, I think, is a good coach. And so, yeah. So to me, with Fernando Mendoza, it was a slam dunk pick. It was no other. This is much of a slam dunk compared to like Trevor Lawrence back in 21, maybe Caleb in 24. I mean, he was the consensus pick. So I've never seen more of a slam dunk pick in a long time. Pick in a long time. But this is the those are the two players that come to mind when I think of that.
do you think with Fernando Mendoza on the Raiders, obviously the Raiders were still a terrible team last year. We all know that. Do you think that there might be hope for them to maybe sneak into the playoffs or be on the bubble on the outside looking in, or do you think that this is still going to be another year or two, maybe even three, before we actually start seeing waves?
Yeah, no. So with the Raiders, I mean, they signed Kirk Cousins. So even though that they're not going to be as competitive with like Fernando Mendoza, for now they're actually doing what most coaches and most teams should do, and has have the quarterback sit and watch. You know, not to bring up the Jets, but look at them. Look at how many times they've thrown the quarterbacks into the fire. We've seen how that works out. Along with these other teams, like, it's just sometimes the best thing is to sit and watch. So the fact that he's not out there making an impact right away, sure. In the short term, yeah, but in the long term, it's going to benefit them tremendously. Because and Kirk Cousins, he's a decent player. He's a decent quarterback, so he's going to make it watchable, make it serviceable, and he's going to, obviously help transition the Raiders from mediocrity into success. And I think he's a great quarterback to learn from. You know, I wouldn't say great is a good quarterback to learn from. I want to take that back. But to answer your question, like I know he's not going to short term, he's not going to make an impact, but in the long term, it's going to he will make an impact. And I think that it's good that he sits and watches, and Kirk Cousins takes over. For the meantime.
All right, so your team had the second overall pick, David Bailey, edge rusher out of the Texas Tech program. How do you feel about this? Did you think that they should have went for a quarterback, or do you think that because they're so far away, you might as well just take the best available player?
So in the beginning of the draft, I remember Dante Moore was a quarterback that was, people thought was going to come out and was going to be the vocal point for that spot at number two. But the fact that he went back to college, I was so happy. I dropped in my knees at my job. You know how they say like you fell down to your knees at a Walmart? That's why I fell to my knees because nothing against Dante Moore, but it just would have been a move that would have been rushed, would have been pressured. The Jets would have been pressured that they would have had to take this quarterback. But the fact that he said he wasn't ready, he went back to college, and now the Jets could focus on just building the roster. Because even if they wanted to take a quarterback this year, it would not be a good decision. I originally was for that. I originally was for they should take a quarterback now so you have them for next year. But again, my patience is tested, and it's going to keep on being tested for especially as long as I'm a Jet fan. Um, to answer your question, I think it's good that they didn't take a quarterback this year. I think they take a quarter. I think next year supposedly the class is loaded, as we all know. Uh, Dante Moore is going to be one of them. So hopefully Dante Moore, if he's more polished and he's more ready, he might be the quarterback, especially since we took Kenya and Sadiq. his tight end. But again, I'm glad the Jets, take a quarterback this year. I want them to take a quarterback next year. What I wanted them to do and still do is build a roster for next year for the quarterback that comes in. So when he comes in, that he's in a better situation. He's ready to succeed, where he's not in a dumpster fire of a roster. So I'm glad the Jets didn't take a quarterback this year. I like that they're just going to build a roster from scratch. It's essentially last year was kind of definitely the definition of a rebuild year. It wasn't just a rebuilding year, but an evaluation year. And what I mean by that is that, obviously the roster was not set. Sure, they had Sauce Gardner and Quinn Williams, but they didn't have enough talent. So what they did was they traded them away and they got some good key picks. And obviously, they got Kenyon Sadiq with this pick, and obviously next year they got 3 first rounders, which is going to keep on building the roster. So in terms of this year, I like that they didn't take a quarterback and they're just going to keep building on the roster, whether that's defensive or offense. The defense needs a lot of work, and that starts with David Bailey. Now, David Bailey, he's to me a pass rusher with a high motor, very athletic, and it's explosive, and he's got great counter moves and great pass rushing moves. He's the definition of a pure edge rusher. So I originally was for the Reese pick because of the versatility, but I also wouldn't have minded David Bailey because of the fact that he's a pure edge rusher. He's the definition of like what you want at the edge rushing position. People compared him to Aiden Hutchinson. Some people Chad Robinson, you know. But David Bailey, to me, I like the pick because of his explosiveness, the fact that he can get to the quarterback. I love his story. I've read up a lot on him these past couple of weeks. I've done nothing but write about him and Alvaro Reese. That's what I'm doing for the other side, Blitz Sports Media. And so you do my study on David Bailey. Obviously, you could tell with David Bailey, you have stability, you have like proven, but then obviously Alvaro Reese, you have the versatility. So at the end, I don't think they could have gone wrong, and I like the David Bailey pick because like everything I just said. And Aaron Glenn, they seem like they have a plan for him and what they're going to do, and hopefully it fits and hopefully it works out. So I'm excited to see. I like that they added to the defensive room that failed to get to the quarterback and create turnovers, and I think it starts so far with David Bailey.
All right, so I saw a lot of people saying I actually see an article here on the side, which is funny. That Jeremiah Love seems to be the favorite for the rookie of the year. Do we like this pick for the Cardinals? The Cardinals, keep in mind, they looked pretty good at the end of the season. They showed some signs of life there. How do we feel about the Cardinals here? Or
Yeah, the move definitely interested me. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the Cardinals I knew were kind of like a team that was interested in Love. I don't know if it's necessarily need. I mean, James Conner is coming off an injury. He did have a bad injury. I forgot he broke something. I forgot what he broke, but I know it was season ending. That's how bad it was. They got Trey Benson. They signed Tyler Algier from Atlanta. So the running back room is filled with a ton of players with just ton of talent, a ton of players at the running back position. So you know, obviously you'd have to think he's the number one starter right away. Jeremiah Love though, great prospect. Obviously, in college football, I'm an Alabama and Notre Dame fan. I like to consider myself more of a Notre Dame fan now that I'm older. Um, so obviously I knew about Jeremiah Love and just the explosive player he was. I thought he'd be a good candidate for the Jets. That's what I was like a couple years ago. I was saying like I'm ready for him to be a Jet. But obviously we don't need him. We got Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. That's a different story. But like I said, Jeremiah Love, great prospect, tremendous talent. He's going to be definitely high on fantasy draft boards. And my question is for the Cardinals. I just wonder what they're going to do with the running back room. I'm just saying they got a lot of running backs loaded at that position. So that's just my question is that's what are they going to do? Like someone's going to get cut, or then again there were a lot of injuries to the room. So I don't know. That's my question. I wonder what they're going to do in terms of the quarterback position. Jacoby Brissett. I wanted him to be the Jets' bridge quarterback this year. Obviously, the Cardinals they realized what they had, and they said no, we're keeping him. So I think he's a good serviceable quarterback for them. And I think the offense did way better under him than it did with Kyler Murray. I feel like everybody knows that. So, I think they're going to be serviceable with Jacoby Brissett. I know they got Mike LaFleur, who was the Jets OC, brother of Matt LaFleur from the Packers. I'd like to see what he's going to bring to that team in terms of his creativity, what kind of play style he wants from his players, especially with Michael Wilson. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to have a rebound year? People are ready to label him as a bust, but could he change that? So, I think, I think the Cardinals, they got a good future. It's again, the pick is interesting, but again, it only adds to the explosiveness on that offense.
All right, Cardinal Tate. We'll do the top five and then we'll jump around a bit. Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, goes to the Titans. One, did not know the Titans switched their logos around. That looks nice.
They did,
Two,
yeah.
how do we feel about this? I feel like that's a team that's got so many holes. Clearly, they brought him in for Cam Ward, but is this the right move here? That you know, to get another skill player, another offensive weapon when they got other issues that they could be prioritizing, or do
Listen,
you
I
think
mean,
it's fine? They got so many things going on that it's kind of it's almost
well, I
hard to have a
mean,
bad
yeah.
pick here.
Well, it's crazy. They did add to a room of Wanda Robinson, who they just signed, and obviously they still got Calvin Ridley. And I gotta look at more of their who they have on the depth
Yeah,
chart
and they
just to
still
refresh my
have
mind.
my guy Shamari DK,
Yeah, Shamar DK.
who is an absolute unit on special teams and had a few decent games at wide receiver as well. I just thought this was kind of an odd pick, especially because they got Wandale Robinson. Who I'm just like, I just, sidebar here. I'm just so pissed off at the Dexter Lawrence thing because it cost us Wandale Robinson. Like, I'm still mad about that
Yeah,
for
I
that
mean,
reason.
we definitely after the Cornell take pick, we definitely, or actually, we'll get mm, this stuff. We'll talk about it a bit, but I just want to get my thoughts on Cornell Tate. Um, Explosive receiver. He was regarded as it's clear he was regarded as the best wide receiver of the draft. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been the first wide receiver taken. Explosive receiver. People compared him to T. Higgins. Another compliment. Another Ohio State stud. You can never give Cam Ward never too much weapons, especially the fact that he's still developing as a quarterback in the league. He last year for the Titans, everyone thought they were going to have the number one pick. It was either between them and the Jets. Of course, it ended up going to the Raiders. But at the end of the day, Tennessee they showed some fight. Obviously, they fired Brian Callahan. Then Mike McCoy took over. But at the end of the season, Cam Ward he showed some strides. People thought he looked like a rookie at times, but he soon found ways to adjust, and he proved that he is capable of competing in this league. So obviously, with Robert Saleh coming in as the head coach, Brian Daboll as OC, they're trying to surround him with as much talent as they can. So if that means adding Carnell Tate to that wide receiver room, then hey, sure. Especially Calvin Ridley and Wandale, they're more like vertical speedsters. Not that much height. I mean, the explosiveness. Don't get me wrong, it's insane. But in terms of going up and getting a jump ball, they're not the players to think of. Maybe Calvin Ridley, but a lot of people. But I don't think that's the player I would think of. So again, Carnell Tate gives them that option. So hey, I like the pick for them. Good for them. It's definitely crazy. I think that pick kind of screwed up a lot of boards for a lot of draft boards for the league. So
Definitely. I was kind of assuming the Giants would get another wide receiver or not to
yeah,
kind of
I don't.
replace Wandale Robinson because I was looking at the Giants wide receiver group before we started, and that's going to segue us into the Giants pick. We brought in Darnell Mooney. He's okay, but yeah. Aside from that, and Malik Neighbors, this could be a long year on that
Right,
side of the
and
ball. Yes, we have Scadaboo and Jackson Dart's very good and everything like that, but I don't want my hyper aggressive running back to be, thrust too much into a position where he needs to change the game. I want my wide receivers to do some damage too. Now, like if you double cover Malik Neighbors, I mean, especially coming off of an injury, I don't know who you're really throwing to. Darnell Mooney is not exactly
yeah,
the most
yeah,
consistent player in the league, which is what I thought Wandale Robinson excelled at. Was just you could throw the ball to him and he's going to catch it.
yeah.
All right, well,
No, yeah. I'm saying, go ahead.
continue because I
No,
would
yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm going to take us to our next pick here, unless of course you want anything else you want to talk about with Carnell Tate.
Well, no, I agree with what you said. I think the Cornell Tate. I don't know what the Giants were going to do at five with that. I don't know if he was going to be there at five. Would they have taken him over Reese? That's a question we're never going to know. But again, like you said, Neighbors. I think they're relying on the fact that he's the wide receiver one, of course, but at the same time, He's coming off injury. We don't know if he's going to be up to speed right away. Maybe they got Darnell Mooney, and of course, and then they might add Odell Beckham. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I listen. All I'm saying is, I was looking at the Giants wide receiver, the guys they're on the technically like on the roster now before he cuts, whatever. And there's a lot of wide receivers. They're just not particularly good. And I'm not. Listen, they're a lot better than I'll ever be, but
Maybe
I'm not
yeah.
exactly seeing Pro Bowlers and All Pros. Not too many guys to root for in fantasy, so to speak. All right, at 5, they went up going Arvell Reese here,
Right.
linebacker out of Ohio State, whose draft comp. This is kind of funny. His draft comp is a guy already on the roster, Abdul Carter. Uh, I, as a Giants fan, when my hat is backwards, it is a Giants hat. Um, I don't like this pick. When I was at work last night, we were talking about it. It's not as much as I don't believe in Arvell Reese. Listen, if he's the next Lawrence Taylor, I'll love the pick. But in terms of fit, when there's some good guys in the secondary available, uh,
Yeah.
you know
No.
what I mean? Like, I'd
Yeah.
much
Yeah. Yeah.
rather fix that secondary. And then the next pick, of course, the freaking Chiefs have to take Mansoor Delane. And I kind of, part of me is almost like if you think the Chiefs are eyeing somebody, maybe you should just take them just for the hell of it,
Yeah.
you know? Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like we have enough defense up there. Even with I understand maybe this is kind of a Dexter Lawrence replacement to them. At the 11th hour, they had to pivot after losing Dexter Lawrence. Maybe that's the way they view it. But and I understand different positions or whatnot. But it's an option you can move around rather than a cornerback, which is a little more restrictive, so to speak. But I don't know. I feel like our secondary was so bad. Like I'm confident that we could develop Kayvon Thibodeau and Abdul Carter and the guys we already have, but our secondary was just I don't know, man.
Yeah. No. You hit everything on the nail. Nothing against Arvell Reese. I mean, if they want a replacement for Dexter Lawrence, they should have waited to the end of. They should have traded up in the second round to take the first round to take Peter Woods. Yeah, I know we were talking about Peter Woods nonstop in our fantasy chat. Shout out to Jason Brandell and hopefully Michael Karam if he's watching too. I know he was had the blowtorches at my door yesterday when my SportsShack was not working. As we say, we had a shack attack.
Yeah,
We had a
we
shack
did
attack.
have a Shack attack.
We had a shack attack. But overall, Reese, nothing against the player. Again, I wanted him for the Jets pick. It was either him or David Bailey. I would have been fine with. I would have been completely fine with. But I had to pick. I was picking Alvaro Reese because of the versatility. Nothing against the Giants, but like, how many other and one of our good buddies, uh, Chris Muse was saying last night, like, how many more linebackers do we need? That's what he was telling me. And even Malik Neighbors on Bleacher Report with Micah Parsons because they were watching the draft together. Even he said he's like, where's he gonna go? But then at the end of the day, he did tweet out. He's like, hey, like I'm not trying to hate on Arvell's one of his best days of his life. Like I'm happy for him and welcoming. He's a dog. Um, but it's true. Like where's he gonna be? You got Abdul Carter, Kayvon, you know McFadden.
We have 13. I just counted. I hate to cut you off. 13 linebackers currently on the Giants roster per ESPN.
That's insane.
13.
You can never have too many linebackers, Dennis.
Yeah. Apparently,
But
uh,
but either,
strange.
but in terms of with the Dexter Lawrence, because I know we do got to bring that up. I want to say the Giants fleeced with that trade. Um, to get the 10th overall pick for him. Nothing against Dexter Lawrence, but I didn't think he was going to be a first rounder, let alone a 10th overall pick. So I thought they fleeced the Bengals, and I thought it was a good trade on them. So at least they were able to get the tackle at number 10. We'll get to that in a second. But they definitely had the opportunity to take Caleb Downs. They should have did that at number 5.
Yeah, I assumed that's who we were taking earlier in the week. Like, if you asked me who we were taking, I would have guessed him or I would have guessed Mansoor Delane. Just because, again, like I feel like our secondary is a much stronger, like a much more glaring weakness. And then I heard the Giants front office, like Joe Shane being a little cagey about Thibodeau's future. Now I'm like, are we not going to extend Thibodeau and hope that Arvell Reese is his replacement? I don't know. I got to be honest, Brandon. I'm starting to lose faith in our Giants front office here. I don't like
Well,
losing Wandale Robinson. You know, that's my guy. I always kind of held it against them that we never got brought back Richie James, but whatever. I'm the only one that's still mad about that. I don't even think Richie James cares anymore. Uh, I think the Dexter Lawrence stuff, whatever happened there, is insane. I think that's mostly a Dexter Lawrence problem. You can't be looking for a raise after your career worst. I
you know what it
I think
is?
that's I think that skews more towards bad advice from his agent rather than anything. But
I
that's up
think it
to
was a lot of it was because from reports I saw, I don't know how true they are, but he didn't want to play under Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh, my apologies. He commands more of a rugged, tough, like playing style. That's just like a rugged, tough, you know, coaching where
I
it's
don't know if it's tough enough for Ray Lewis. It should be tough enough for you, dude.
well, I guess it didn't prove otherwise. So just Dexter didn't feel like he wanted to play under John Harbaugh. That's the reports that came out, and obviously there's reports. Ooh, there you go. There's reports saying I don't know if he's not in the best football shape, or maybe he's not up to par. Again, either way, it just clearly he didn't want to play for the Giants as much as they thought, and so a trade was worked out, and now he plays for the Bengals. In terms of the Bengals, like
We'll
they
get
need,
there at some point. We'll get
we'll get
there.
there at some point, yeah. But that's what I think. Let's wrap up the top 10, and then maybe
Yeah,
we'll talk about the Giants and the
we don't have to go player to player. The Giants might have taken the offensive tackle out of Miami at 10. Unless, of course, you want to talk about anybody else in the top 10 specifically. I figured we'll just talk New York picks from here.
um. Well, Jordan Tyson is intriguing to me. I feel like that's a good pairing for Chris Olave, and I feel like it's good playing in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, the Caesars Superdome, the Mercedes Superdome. That's Atlanta, actually. Am I correct? Uh, the Caesars Superdome in uh, New Orleans. I think that's a good fit for him. A good stadium. Uh, I like Tyler Shuck. I think he's still a good quarterback. And especially he's going to work with a good coach in Kellen Moore. So I think it was a good fit. As for the Saints, and especially a good pairing with Chris Olave, as the Saints are trying to build back that the offense that they once had with Drew Brees, and even though they still got Alvin Kamara, but they did add Travis Etienne, so definitely upgraded. I feel like a lot of teams definitely upgraded this whole offseason. So, but that's my Jordan Tyson. Sonny Styles, not a lot of people too high on him from people close to us that talked, but we'll see. But yeah, I guess it's my wrap on the top 10.
Yeah, I'm happy the Giants took an offensive tackle. Offensive lineman, it's always a crapshoot to get drafted, but whatever. I'm happy. Second quarterback to get taken, Ty Simpson to the Rams. I guess it makes sense. Matt Stafford's not getting any younger. You got to strike while the iron is hot. Do you have any particular feeling about that or no?
Oh, that shocked me. I mean, I like Ty Simpson. I thought he needed more experience, and I don't think he's a quarterback that they could take right now. Um, I think he's, for I don't think it would have been good value for maybe like in the second round. I think the Rams, who they never have a first round pick, I think they should have took a player, non-quarterback to help them. I get it. You want to set up for the future. I get it. But at the same time, I don't know. It's clear that it wasn't the pick that Sean McVay wanted, because you see at this press conference, he doesn't look too happy. Um, again, I'm not hating on Ty Simpson as a player or his character. I think he's a great guy, and I think he has tremendous potential, tremendous talent. But honestly, if there's any team for him to go to, it's the Rams. It's the Rams, because then he could sit behind Matthew Stafford, MVP, Hall of Fame quarterback. No other better quarterback to learn from. And then obviously sit back and watch, no pressure. You just hope that he just lives up to the potential. And It definitely shocked me. 'Cause all I'm saying, I just don't think he should have been taken that high overall. They probably could have taken a player, maybe like Kyle Lemon, who everyone is raving about, and he dropped to the Eagles. He even got past the Jets. But I like the team. I just don't like the pick.
Okay, I was about to say, so you like the player, you like the fit, you just don't like the pick in that specific spot.
Yes.
Okay, one thing I will say, just to kind of counter here. Oh no, never mind. I had my picks mixed up. I was gonna say, well, it was ahead of the Cowboys. I actually got the picks mixed up here. I thought they took him here. Whoops, my bad. All right, so you had mentioned him a few times. Tight end out of Oregon, Kenyon Sadiq. It seems like you're pretty high on him, buddy.
Um, I did not. If you would have told me the Jets were going to take a tight end with the 16th pick, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought you were crazy. I would have thought you were telling me you had dinner with Michael Jordan at the Northport Hotel, uh, which is where I was last night. Uh, not with Michael Jordan. I
I was
wish.
about to say, oh, Brandon, I didn't realize you were that tight with him.
I was at the Northport Hotel. Not with Michael Jordan though. That would have been crazy. But I was gonna say, but you know, I guess there was no other players. They supposedly Darren Mucci said this was a slam dunk pick. I questioned it at first because like really a tight end? Because number one, the Jets are not known for their tight ends. They're known for a lot. They have had a lot of defensive studs. Joe Namath, obviously Super Bowl III win. Curtis Barton, Testaverde, Keyshawn. I can give you all the Jets players. Drew Rivas, but they're not known for their tight ends. Like what? Dustin Keller, Mickey Schuler, Rich Castor, right? I think that's the other player. Uh, Anthony Beck. Like, like when did they have a good tight end? So maybe Kenyon Shitty could change that. So, but like I said, I just question. I'm like, really a tight end? Really? Come on. There was no other position we could have filled. But supposedly it was a slam dunk, and supposedly Kenyon Sadiki's a stud. And I looked at like just like some pictures of him in football. He looks jacked. Like he looks like a beast. And so supposedly he ran like a 4.3. That's the fastest from a tight end in like maybe 20 years. That's insane. And supposedly he's like a big chess piece on offense. You could put him at tight end. You could put him in the slot. They could do so much with him. And he's just a mismatch. And again, the speed. I think the speed is what separates him from all the other prospect. Now he does need to work on his hands. Supposedly he doesn't have good hands, but he said it. I need to work on my hand-to-eye coordination, work on my hands, and yeah. So I questioned the pick, but I've come to like it, and especially what we did at number 30.
All right, anything else from that first round, or are we good to move on to other topics? I know we're kind of under the clock here.
One thing to say is I did love Omar Cooper Jr. I liked him from the beginning. I know the Jets were high on him
Oh,
too.
okay, good. Yeah, you guys, some offensive talent may not hurt. Although I think defensively, you guys were really lacking. I'm not trying to sound like a hater, like we're friends with, but I
Right.
feel like you guys
I
have
reckon.
so many holes on your team that it's uh, you got to try something. Like if you want to build around the offense, build around the offense. Might as well just throw anything and see what sticks. So I guess in terms of positional fit, that's fine. I see here that Matt Miller's pro comp is Rasheed Rice. Hopefully, Amari Cooper takes some defensive driving courses. No, I'm kidding. That was messed up. But I hope he's. I hope a lot of times we see these wide receivers and whatnot kind of get caught up in stupid stuff, and hopefully, he's good for you guys because you need a stable culture. I always say that the Jets, and I'm not the only one. The Jets need some stability there, and hopefully, this guy is the right pick for you and your offense. And that's like such like a generic response, but
No, hey, you know what? I thought your response was fine.
okay.
I
Seems like
I
he's
like the pick. I didn't
in a
think the Jets were going to trade up. In the first round, I thought they were done for the night. They were going to wait to the second round. But obviously, they loved Amari Cooper Jr. enough that they wanted to trade into the first round to get him, especially what that does, you take him the first round, that gives him the ability, that gives the Jets the ability to have him for 5 years, not just four. Because obviously, if you're taken out of the first round, that you can't have that, like the fifth year option. It's only for first rounders. So they liked him enough as a prospect where they were able to do that. That shows a lot, not just about him, but how much the Jets love him. Um, he's definitely going to start as wide receiver three. Could work his way to wide receiver two, but Adonai Mitchell, I think, is the wide receiver two. To me, he's clutch. To me, he's clutch. He's tough. The yards after the catch, I think that's the biggest thing with him. And he was a big factor in the Hoosiers' go-to run to the national championship. So I love the pick. I was excited about him. Chris was not happy, but I'm like, you're a hater. I love the pick. It's a great pick, and we needed wide receiver. We need weapons on wide receiver. And last night the Jets added two of them, tight end and stud wide receiver. And that's all I got to say about the draft.
All right. Do we want to jump to baseball real quick? Or do we want to
Sure,
wrap up? All right.
we got a couple minutes.
So, your New York Mets finally won a game, and now you guys are on like a little mini winning streak, Brandon. How about that? So, you guys lost your, what, 12 straight?
Unfortunately,
We don't have to count. And now back
it's
to
12
back
straight. Yeah, it's
games.
12 straight.
Back to back games, you guys win. Now you got the Rockies coming up. I think people kind of haven't realized the Rockies have been a bit of a tough out so far. Uh, they even gave a little run for the money to the Dodgers in this series. They stayed in every game. And you guys win a barn burner against the Twins here, survive a late comeback by the Twins, and you get to their ace offense, something that the Mets have been struggling with all year long. You get to Joe Ryan, one of the best young pitchers in the league, perennial All Star, perennial All MLB caliber player. You get to him, you knock him around. Brandon, do you think that this Jets success, this Mets success is sustainable, or do you think that this, it's going to be a little bit more of the last week rather than the last two nights moving forward?
No, that's a good question. It shocked me. I was just happy they got a win. I didn't think they were able to get two straight. Last night's game showed a lot. It showed resilience, showed they can hit, and it showed, I don't know what the third thing would be. Now I say resilience because, hey, you know what? They were up 7-3. They gave it away. It was 7-7, and then they found a way to come back. They and win the game. Now Devin Williams was almost giving me a heart attack at the end of the game because just I don't know what's going on with him. I know you've mentioned it before. That's maybe it's because of the injury. He's just not the same mentally after what happened in 24. But luckily they're able to put the game away. I'm so happy to see Carson Bench looking good. He had two hits. Bo Bichette's finally contributing. So it's just great to see just what they weren't doing, Dennis, is they weren't hitting. They weren't hitting. Like, put the ball in play. Do something. Like, it's like me out there. Like, I didn't know I was playing baseball again. Like, come on. Like, Bo Bichette, you were known in Toronto for one of your clutch hitting and just the power, the contact with your bat. But I'm happy to see that he's getting going. It's good to see Soto back. It sucks for Lindor, but I think Lindor, even though Lindor was heating up, I think maybe this is good. Maybe he needs a break and just take some time off. You can see he was hurt, so it's good to see he's on the IL. But at least we got Soto back. But in terms of last night, it's just it's just good to see the Mets offense finally producing because the pitching, sure, the pitching has been a little bit inconsistent lately. Besides Clay Holmes, Nolan McLean, but you know what's going to lose them games is the offense. But last night proved otherwise.
Okay, and real quick, earlier in the week when the Mets were still on their losing streak, reporters had asked Juan Soto if he had reached out or talked to the Mets during their losing streak. He said no. As a Met fan, how do you feel about this aloofness that we've seen with Juan Soto? This kind of almost like apathy towards clubhouse culture, really everywhere he played.
It doesn't bother me. I mean, what bothers me that he wasn't playing because obviously they needed. It's clear they needed the bat. Is you know I don't know if I'm not going to read into it. I feel like New York media is kind of a little bit too much. So I don't want to read into it.
It is important to note in 5 plate appearances, Juan Soto did have 2 walks, no hits yesterday, but 2 walks. Still getting used to this season. And yeah, my Yankees were also on a bit of a losing streak of their own, but it looks like they're looking good again. They're 5 or 6 straight games we've been winning, so we're looking pretty sharp. I feel like we don't gotta get too deep in there, especially after we just put a beating on the Red Sox as the Yankees move to winning 6 straight games. The Yankees will start a road series against Houston tonight at 8:10, and the Mets will be hosting the Colorado Rockies at 7:10 for their series going into the weekend. Brandon, do you have anything else you want to touch upon tonight, or is now a time to wrap it up? I know you have work.
I want to talk more, but I think we should wrap up.
All right, fair enough. So with that, do you want to do the closing words, or do you want me to do the closing words?
I think you can do it today.
Thank you. First and foremost, just want to say thank you to you and the audience for bearing with me as I just am getting absolutely 360 windmill dunked on by allergies.
Same.
Had to repeatedly walk away to get tissues, although I didn't have tissues anyway, so just paper towel, whatever. Thank you for bearing with us. And, talking some NFL draft, NBA playoffs, go Suns, go Knicks. We'll see how it goes. And go Sabres. Our boys from the Northwest still kicking it, man. Still getting after it. I picked them to come out of the Eastern Conference. Go Sabres. Rise up, baby. And with that, thank you for joining us on the 49th edition of Sports Shack. I, Dennis Toohey, always joined by today my right-hand man, Brandon, serving up your sports takes. Brandon, any closing words?
I'm glad we overcame the Shack attack, and we had a good episode today.
Yeah. Take your allergy medicine and watch sports.
That's right.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
What do you got going on today?